Message integrity. In this video, we are going to see about message integrity. Message integrity. The cryptography systems that we have studied so far provide secrecy or confidentiality, but not integrity. Integrity. However, there are occasions where we may not even need secrecy, but instead must have integrity. The most common approach is to use a one-way hash function that combines all the bytes in the message with a secret key and produces a message digest that is impossible to reverse. Message integrity deals with methods that ensure that the contents of a message have not been tampered with and altered. Message integrity includes the following: document and fingerprint, message and message digest, difference, checking integrity, cryptographic hash function criteria. Message and message digest. To preserve the integrity of the message or document, it can be passed through an algorithm called a cryptographic hash function. This function creates the fixed size string of the message that can be used like a fingerprint. Checking integrity. To check the integrity of the message or document, run the cryptographic hash function again and compare the new message digest with the previous one. If both are same, then it is clear that the original message has not been changed. Cryptographic hash function criteria. A cryptographic hash function must satisfy three criteria: pre-image resistance, second pre-image resistance, weak collision resistance, strong collision resistance. Pre-image resistance. Given a message M and the hash function hash such that the given hash value is h is equal to hash of M. It should be hard to find any M such that h is equal to hash of M. Second pre-image resistance, weak collision resistance. Given a message M1, it should be hard to find another message M2 such that hash of M1 is equal to hash of M2 and that M1 is not equal to M2. Strong collision resistance. It should be hard to find two messages M1 is not equal to M2 such that hash of M1 is equal to hash of M2. A hash function takes a fixed size input n bit string and produces a fixed size output m bit strings such that m less than n in length. The original hash function was defined by Merkle-Damgard, which is an iterated hash function. This hash function first breaks up the original message into fixed size blocks of size n. Next, an initial vector h0 digest is set up and combined with the message block m1 to produce message digest h1, which is then combined with m2 to produce message digest h1, and so on until the last message block produces the final messages digest. hi is equal to f of hi minus 1, mi, I is greater than or equal to 1. Digital signature. In this video, we are going to learn about digital signature. Digital signature. A digital signature is a mathematical model for illustrating the authenticity of a digital message or document. A valid digital signature gives a recipient reason to believe that the message was created by a known sender and that it was not changed during transmission. Digital signatures are mostly used for software distribution, financial transactions, and in some other cases where it is important to detect forgery or tampering. Properties. Message authentication protects two parties who swapping messages from any third party. However, it does not protect the two parties against each other. Several forms of dispute between the two are possible. Generic model of digital signature process. For example, consider that Bob sends authenticated message to Alice. Essential elements of digital signature process. The digital signature should have the following properties. It should verify the author and the date and time of the signature. It should authenticate the contents at the time of the signature. It must be verifiable by third parties to resolve disputes. Digital signature requirements. Signature should be a bit pattern, depends on the message being signed. The signature should utilize a few information unique to the sender to avoid both forgery and denial. It should be comparatively simple to produce the digital signature. It should be comparatively simple to identify and validate this digital signature. It should be computationally infeasible to forge a digital signature, either by constructing a new message for an existing digital signature or by constructing a fraudulent digital signature for a given message. It should be realistic to hold a copy of the digital signature in storage. Types of digital signatures. There are two types of digital signatures. They are direct digital signature, arbitrated digital signature. Direct digital signature. Direct digital signatures only require the two entities because the receiver of the data, digital signature, knows the public key used by the sender, and the sender of the signature failed the receiver not to change the document in any way. Direct digital signatures involve the direct application of public key algorithms involving only the communicating parties. A digital signature might be created by encrypting the whole message with the sender's private key or by encrypting a hash code of the message with the sender's private key. Confidentiality can be offered by additionally encrypt the whole message plus signature using either or private key schemes. It is significant to do the signature function first and then outer confidentiality function, since in case of dispute, a few third parties should vision the message and its signature. These approaches are dependent on the security of the sender's private key, which leads to the problem if it is lost or stolen and signatures forged. Arbitrated digital signature. Arbitrated digital signature involves the use of arbiter A who validates any signed message and then dated and sent to the recipient. This digital signature requires a suitable level of trust in arbiter A. It can be implemented with either secret or public key algorithms where arbiter may or may not see the message. Authentication Protocol. In this video, we are going to learn about Authentication Protocol. Authentication Protocol is a kind of cryptographic protocol with the reason of authenticating entities wishing to communicate securely. Authentication protocols is used to convince parties of each other's identity and to exchange session keys. Key issues are confidentiality to protect session keys and timeliness to prevent replay attacks. A session key is a single-use symmetry key used for encrypting all messages in one communication session. Replay attacks. Replay attacks are one in which a valid signed message is copied and later resent. Simple replay: copy the message, send later again at any time. Repetition that can be logged: replay time-stamped message within time window. Repetition that cannot be detected: Original message not sent, a forged one sent. Backward replay without modification, message returned back to sender, symmetric cipher. Countermeasures include use of sequence numbers on messages, generally impractical, timestamps on messages needs synchronized clocks, challenge or response using unique nonce. Authentication protocol methods. Authentication protocol may be mutual authentication or one-way authentication. Mutual authentication. In mutual authentication, both parties ensure each other's identities, for example, exchange session keys. Mutual authentication has two approaches. They are symmetric encryption approaches, public key approaches. Symmetric encryption approaches. Symmetric encryption use a two-level hierarchy of keys, usually with a trusted key distribution center (KDC), where each party shares own master key with KDC. KDC generates session keys used for connections between parties. Master keys used to distribute these to them. Needham-Schroeder Protocol. Needham-Schroeder Protocol is original third-party key distribution protocol for session between A and B mediated by Key Distribution Center (KDC). Protocol overview is A tends to inner product of KDC and IDA exactly divides IDB exactly divides N1. KDC tends to inner product of A and EKA. KS exactly divides IDB exactly divides N1 exactly divides EKB of KS exactly divides IDA. A tends to inner product of B and EKB of KS exactly divides IDA. B tends to inner product of A and EKS of N2. A tends to inner product of B and EKS of F of N2. It is used to securely distribute a new session key for communications between A and B. Vulnerable to a replay attack if an old session key has been compromised, then step 3 can be resent, convincing B that is communicating with A. Modifications to address this require timestamps, Denning 81, and using an extra nonce, Newman 93. Public key encryption approaches. Mutual authentications have a range of approaches based on the use of public key encryption. Need to ensure have correct public keys for other parties using a central authentication server (AS). Various protocols exist using timestamps or nonce. Denning AS protocol. Denning 81 present the following. A tends to inner product of AS and IDA exactly divides IDB. AS tends to inner product of A and EK RAS of IDA exactly divides KUA exactly divides T, which exactly divides EKRAS of IDB exactly divides KUB exactly divides T. A tends to inner product of B and EKRAS of IDA exactly divides KUA exactly divides T exactly divides EKRAS of IDB exactly divides KUB exactly divides T exactly divides EKUB of EKRA of KS exactly divides T. Session key is chosen by A, hence AS need not to be trusted to protect it. Timestamps prevent replay but require synchronized clocks. One-way authentication. In one-way authentication, recipient ensures sender is authentic. One-way authentication is required when sender and receiver are not in communications at the same time. For example, email. One-way authentication also has two approaches. They are symmetric encryption approaches, public key approaches. Symmetric encryption approaches. It can refine the use of KDC but cannot have final exchange of nonce. A tends to inner product of KDC and IDA exactly divides IDB exactly divides N1. KDC tends to inner product of A and EKA of KS exactly divides IDB exactly divides N1 exactly divides EKB of KS exactly divides IDA. A tends to inner product of B and EKB of KS exactly divides IDA, which exactly divides EKS of M. Here KA and KB are secret keys, IDA, IDB are initial message. It does not protect against replace, could rely on timestamp in message, so email delays make this problematic. Public key approaches, if confidentiality is major concern, can use A tends to inner product of B EKUB of KS exactly divides EKS of M. It has encrypted session key, encrypted message. If authentication needed, use a digital signature with a digital certificate with message signature certificate. A tends to inner product of B and M, which exactly divides EKRA of H of M, exactly divides EKRAS of T exactly divides IDA, exactly divides KUA. Digital signature standards. In this video, we are going to learn about digital signature standards. The National Institute of Standards and Technology (NIST) has published Federal Information Processing Standard FIPS 186 known as the Digital Signature Standard DSS. The Digital Signature Standard DSS makes use of a secure hash algorithm SHA, described a new digital signature technique, the Digital Signature Algorithm DSA. In this section, we discuss the original DSS algorithm. The DSS approach. The RSA approach, the message to be signed is given as input to a hash function that produces a secure hash code of fixed length. The produced hash code is then encrypted using the sender's private key to form the signature. Both the message and the signature are then transmitted. The recipient takes the message and produces a hash code. The recipient also decrypts the signature using the sender's public key. If the calculated hash code matches the decrypted signature, the signature is accepted as valid. Because only the sender knows the private key, only the sender could have produced a valid signature. The DSS approach also makes use of a hash function. The hash code is provided as input to a signature function along with a random number k generated for this particular signature. The signature function also depends on the sender's private key PRA and a set of parameters known to a group of communicating principals. We can consider this set to constitute a global public key PUG. The result is a signature consisting of two components labeled S and R. At the receiving end, the hash code of the incoming message is generated. This plus the signature is input to a verification function. The verification function also depends on the global public key as well as the sender's public key PUA, which is paired with the sender's private key. The output of the verification function is a value that is equal to the signature component or if the signature is valid. The signature function is such that only the sender with knowledge of the private key could have produced the valid signature. Digital signature algorithm. The DSA is based on the difficulty of computing discrete logarithms and is based on schemes originally presented by Elgamal and Sknor. The DSA signature scheme has advantages, being both smaller, that is 320 versus 1024 bit, and faster over RSA. Unlike RSA, it cannot be used for encryption or key exchange, nevertheless, it is a public key technique. DSA typically uses a common set of global parameters, PQG, for a community of clients. The structure of the algorithm, as revealed here, is quite interesting. Note that the test at the end is on the value R, which does not depend on the message at all. Instead, R is a function of K and the three global public key components. Global public key components. P is a prime number, where 2 power L minus 1 is less than P is less than 2 power L. For 512 is less than or equal to L, less than or equal to 1024, and L multiple of 64. That is, bit length of between 512 and 1024 bits in increments of 64 bits. Q is the prime divisor of P minus 1, where 2 power 159 is less than Q is less than 2 power 160. That is, bit length of 160 bits. G is h power P minus 1 divided by Q mod P, where h is any integer with 1 less than h less than P minus 1, such that h of P minus 1 by Q mod P is greater than 1.
X is a user's private key of random or pseudo-random integer with 0 less than x less than q, and y is the user's public key, that is y is equal to g power x mod p. K is the user's per message secret key of random or pseudo-random integer with 0 less than k less than q. Signing. R is equal to g power k mod p into mod q. S is equal to k inverse of h of m plus xr into mod q.
Signature is equal to R, S.
Verifying. W is equal to s dash of inverse mod q. U1 is equal to h of m dash into w into mod q. U2 is equal to R dash into W into mod Q. V is equal to G power U1 Y power U2 mod P into mod Q. The receiver generates a quantity V that is a function of the public key components, the sender's public key, and the hash of the incoming message. If this quantity matches the R component of the signature, then the signature is validated. Test. V is equal to R dash, where M is the messages to be signed. H of M is hash of M using SHE1, and M dash, R dash, S dash are received versions of M, R, S. Note that the difficulty of computing discrete logs is why it is infeasible for an opponent to recover K from R or X from S. The structure of this function is such that the receiver can recover R using the incoming message and signature, the public key of the user, and the global public key.
Attacks on digital signature. In this video, we are going to learn about attacks on digital signature. Types of attacks: key-only attack, known message attack, chosen message attack. Key-only attack. The attacker C first learns signature on arbitrary messages of the attacker's choice. Known message attack. In known message attack, the attacker C is given valid signatures for a variety of messages known by the attacker but not chosen by the attacker. Chosen message attack. The attacker C first learns signature on arbitrary messages of the attacker's choice. Types of forgery. Additionally, there are two different forgery types. They are existential forgery, selective forgery. Existential forgery. Existential forgery is the creation by an adversary of any message or signature pair M, sigma, where sigma was not produced by the legitimate signer. Selective forgery. Selective forgery is the creation by an adversary of a message or signature pair M, sigma, where M has been chosen by the adversary prior to the attack. Variations for digital signature. In this video, we are going to learn about variations for digital signature. Time-stamped signatures. Sometimes a signed document needs to be time-stamped to prevent it from being replayed by an adversary. This is called time-stamped digital signature scheme. For example, request to a bank to transfer some money to other, including the actual date and time on the documents, may create a problem if the clocks are not synchronized and a universal time is not used. One solution is to use a nonce, a one-time random number. Blind signatures. Sometimes user has a document that they want to get signed without revealing the contents of the document to the signer. David Chaum has developed some patented blind digital signature schemes for this purpose. The main idea is Bob creates a message and blinds it. Bob sends the blinded message to Alice. Alice signs the blinded message and returns a signature on the blinded message. Bob unblinds the signature to obtain a signature on the original message. Blind signature based on the RSA scheme. Blinding. Bob selects a random number, B, and calculates a blinded message. B is equal to M into B per E mod N. B is sometimes called the blinding factor. Bob sends B to Alice. Alice signs the blinded message as SB is equal to B per D mod N and returns a signature SB on the blinded message. Unblinding. It uses the multiplicative inverse of blinding factor S is equal to SB into B inverse mod N. S is congruent to SB B inverse congruent to B power D B inverse congruent to M into B power E to the whole power D into B inverse, which is congruent to M power D into B power ED into B inverse congruent to M power D into B inverse congruent to M power D. Preventing fraud. It appears that Bob can get Alice to sign a blinded message that may hurt her. There are at least 3 ways to prevent such damage. A law that Alice is not responsible for signing any blinded message that against Bob's interest. request a document from Bob that the message she will sign does not hurt Alice. Record that Bob proves his honesty before she signs the blinded message. Applications for digital signature. Most of the applications directly or indirectly require the use of the public keys. To use a public key, a person should prove that they actually own the public key. For this reason, the idea of certificates and certificate authorities CAs has been developed. The certificates must be signed by the CA to be valid. Digital signatures are used to provide such a proof. Today's protocols that use the service of CA include IPSEC, SSL or TLS, and S/MIME. Protocol PGP uses certificates, but they can be issued by people in the community.